Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about my relationship with alcohol and where I am with it today. I didn't start drinking until I entered college, and in college it was very typical, right? Very heavy drinking on the weekend, almost no drinking throughout the week. So a Friday or Saturday night, I might have anywhere between 5 and 10 plus drinks, but Sunday through Thursday, there was barely any alcohol consumption that I was having. When COVID hit and I went home for 6 months, I drank almost none. I really can't remember a time drinking kind of during that COVID period. And then the following fall, came back to school, and it was definitely a lot less because we were in that COVID year. We didn't have the same kind of parties that we used to. We didn't have the same kind of people getting together that we used to. But there was, drinks with friends. It was kind of on the weekend. It didn't really happen throughout the week. Maybe a couple of beers on a weeknight. My senior year of college, I drank relatively heavily. One of the reasons why was I knew it was my senior year and I didn't have a lot of responsibilities, and so I just wanted to cut loose and have fun. So I spent a lot of time out with friends. I spent a lot of money in bars and just had a really good time. I kind of knew that this wouldn't be an option once I graduated just because of life and responsibility and things going on that I needed to pay attention to and wake up for. But my senior year of college was a pretty loose time. Once I graduated, the drinking continued at that pace for a little bit before sharply dropping off. So probably a month after kind of college graduation, I was still with a lot of my friends. A lot of those behaviors kind of remained the same. And then after about a month, that kind of petered off, right? People started to get jobs. People had real responsibilities. You couldn't just be hungover all of the time. So by July, after I graduated, that was basically pretty much dropped off. After that, and probably basically up to relatively recently, drink a couple of times a month, probably get drunk properly once every month to once every 2 months, right? So that was sort of the standard in adult life afterwards. At some point I realized as I was starting to try to get in shape, I was starting to run more, I was starting to exercise more, that, I'm putting on belly fat in a way I don't want to be putting on belly fat, right? It doesn't look like anything if you're wearing a shirt, but I could see, kind of standing in the mirror naked that there's more belly fat here than I want there to be. And I knew that my diet was relatively clean. I would tell people I only drink black coffee, water, and something that contains alcohol. So that something that contains alcohol kind of served as a catch-all for any alcoholic drinks. My primary choice was beer, but I would have a mixed drink on occasion. I would have a glass of wine. I would have these sort of things as well. I wouldn't drink soda at all, but if you put rum in it, I would, right? But it wasn't extraordinarily frequently, right? It was not every night. It was, once a week to a couple of times a week for a couple of drinks. But what I started to realize, after that kind of precipitous drop off from college, is that when I would drink, I would really feel the ramifications the next day. So headaches, fatigue, tiredness, nausea, all of these things really kicked in pretty heavily. When I was in college, when I was in that drinking cycle, I wasn't noticing it quite as much, but once I got out of that and it was a less frequent thing, it definitely hit me a lot harder. So I started thinking about why I was drinking, right? What was the reasoning behind it, and really examining my behavior. One was just to hang out with friends. It was just a thing to do. People would get together, we'd go out to the bar, we'd go out to a winery, we would have some drinks, we would hang out. So it was just sort of a social thing to do. The second piece was to loosen up or relax. So this could either be, I had a long day at work, I wanna have a drink, or it could also be, I'm hanging out with friends, I just want to be looser, I want to be more conversational, I want to have a drink. And the third reason is that it gives an excuse for silly behavior, right? When you're having some drinks with friends, you can behave more silly, you can behave more goofy, you can do things that are not as socially permissible when you are sober. If you're acting in a goofy way, but you've been drinking, people go, oh, he's drunk, it's all good. Whereas if you do that when you're sober, it's, oh, he's acting bizarre, right? So when you're loose, when you're having some drinks, it's really fun to be silly, be goofy, do whatever. So I started to notice this past fall that, while the amount of alcohol that I was drinking a week had not increased, the frequency that I was drinking was. So, instead of it being a few drinks on, a Friday or Saturday, maybe it was a couple of drinks throughout the week. I was spreading those drinks throughout the week. I started to really not like how I was feeling. I could tell, even when I just had a beer, how it impacted my sleep, that I just didn't get as restful sleep as I did when I didn't drink. I would wake up the next morning, I would feel achy, I would feel painful. I just didn't like the way it was making me feel. I also realized how much money I was spending, right? It is so easy to justify, oh, it's only $5 drinks and you have 5 of them and that's $25. Whereas maybe that's half of your grocery budget for the week, right? So it always felt very easy to spend a lot of money on alcohol. Like for whatever reason, I could justify a $10, $12 drink or a few $10 or $12 drinks, but I still didn't want to go out to a fancy restaurant. I really wasn't enjoying how much money I was spending. It was just a lot of money that ended up going out to alcohol. And even if a drink is $5, then you got a tip and then you're at $6, $7. But there was still this piece that it felt like I needed to drink to participate socially. In different social situations, if a bunch of friends were hanging out, it felt like, well, if we're gonna go out, I should probably drink, right? They're gonna think I'm weird. So this was just a thought that I had, but I was definitely feeling a little bit of pressure that if we're gonna go out, I should have a drink. So I started to examine it. I was like, well, let's look at what's actually happening here and see what I might be able to change. So of the things that I really liked from drinking, could I get those things without drinking? So hanging out with friends. Absolutely. You can go to a bar and just get water. Nobody cares. You can even get a sparkling water if you wanted to, but you don't have to necessarily get alcohol. So I could totally hang out. A lot of the conceptions that I had in my head about, oh, people are gonna think I'm weird are not true, right? People just wanna hang out. They just wanna have a good time. People don't really care what you're doing. And I realized that very quickly. If I went out and just got a water or just got a sparkling water, nobody cared. If they wanted to get drinks, great, cool, no problem. So in terms of loosening up, are there other ways that you can loosen up? Yes, absolutely. So, for instance, maybe I wanted to be more socially loose around friends. Okay, cool. What can I do instead? Maybe instead of having a couple of drinks, I could listen to a song that I really liked ahead of time, hanging out with friends to kind of prime me for being in a more upbeat, goofy mood. Or if I wanted to be in a more funny mood, I could watch a scene from one of my favorite comedy movies and kind of get in that more funny mentality, right? If I really wanted to relax, there are lots of ways to relax that are not drinking. After a long day, instead of having a drink, I could take a 20-minute nap. I could do 20 minutes of meditation. I could just sit and play with my cats. And in terms of number 3, an excuse for silly behavior, who needs it? I feel like I can just be silly. You can act in the way that you want to act. You can be goofy. It's gonna be okay. I realized I didn't need alcohol as an excuse to be goofy or silly or funny. I could just behave in that way, and it was fine. So, some of the things that I've been learning since then. So without drinking, I've realized that now I can have a net better time out, right? So if you take the quality of the night out and then you subtract from that the badness of the next day, overall, if I didn't drink, maybe the quality of my night out was slightly less, but it didn't impact the badness of the next day, right? So in net, the total amount of kind of good feeling that I got from the experience was higher. I started to notice my skin improving, so it's one of the things I've talked about. There were other health changes that I was making as well. I did notice that with less drinking, I was getting fewer breakouts. That belly fat that I talked about before basically vanished. So I'm pretty sure that was basically just beer fat that I had put on. And by eliminating the drinking and increasing the working out a little bit, I got rid of that almost immediately. So pretty quick kind of turnaround on that one. My wallet thanked me. It was a huge reduction in the amount of money that I was spending to just not drink at all. And I realized I was falling away from the friends that I only drank with anyways. I think that if you have a friend and the only thing that you do is drink together, that's probably a sign that it's not a very deep friendship, right? If you can hang out with someone and not have any alcohol and still have a good time, that means that you're really true friends. If you have to have alcohol in order to have a conversation, I might have a larger examination of the friendship that you have with them. But throughout all of this, I realized that I still kind of did need to defend my position, right? If I was going out with friends and I wasn't drinking, I still needed to be able to communicate with people, hey, this is not something that I'm doing at the moment. And for the most part, that was totally fine, but alcohol is one of those things that it seems like you do need to be able to say why you're not gonna participate, right? With other things in life, even something like weed, if you say, I don't wanna smoke, nobody even questions it. But with alcohol, there's sort of this well, why don't you do it, right? So there is a little bit of that defense that I had to do and share some of the things that I've just shared with you. But for the most part, people were very receptive. In terms of where I'm at right now and moving forward, so I'm not drinking at the moment. I haven't had a drink in a while. I think probably over the last 2.5 months, I've probably had 3 drinks in total, all of which were just beers. But I'm not saying this is a forever thing, right? I might decide at some point that the, benefit of drinking outweighs the cost, and that's totally fine. But it's something that I'm experimenting with right now, and I'm really enjoying the effects of it so far. I'm finding my life to be cheaper. I'm finding that the next day I'm not regretting the decisions I made the night before. And overall, I'm just feeling good about where I'm at. So, like I said, this is not a forever thing. It's something I'm experimenting with at the moment, and so far it is going well. So I'll probably make an update video here in a couple of months to share where I'm at in terms of drinking, but that's where I'm at right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a comment if you have any questions, and I will see you guys next time.